I'm going to go ahead and open the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and open this meeting. So this is the open portion before the board goes into closed session. And I want to see if there are any public comments for the board. Seeing none, I will go ahead and close this portion of the meeting. The board will be going into closed session. Our meeting will reconvene at 6 p.m. Okay, welcome everybody to this meeting of the Sequoia Union High School District Board of Trustees. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And just a reminder, if you're here and you would like to make public comment, there are cards against the window. And if there are several opportunities to make public comment for items not on the agenda. That is during the public comment section. You could also make public comments during our various agenda items. If you're part of our Zoom audience, you would raise your Zoom hand and I will call on you. So with that, I'd like to start with a roll call.
Student trustee Swaminathan.
Present.
Student trustee Rodriguez Velasquez.
Present.
Let's get trustee Thompson. Here. Trustee Stevenson.
Here.
Trustee Sarver. Here. Vice President Ginn. Here. And President Dubois.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you very much. So we are now on item 5 of our agenda, approval of the agenda. Any changes? Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. The agenda is approved. I do have 2 items to report out from closed session. There were 2 settlement agreements that were approved by the board. The first one, by a vote of 5 board members in favor, 0 against, the Board of Trustees approved the settlement agreement for case number 2022-2023-1. Second item, by a vote of 5 board members in favor, 0 against, the Board of Trustees approved the settlement agreement for case number 2022-2023-2. And there were no other items in closed session. So next is our consent agenda. If you don't always attend our board meetings, the consent agenda is comprised of various documents, contracts, things that are approved by the board in one motion. So we don't discuss each individual item, but the board has carefully reviewed all of these items. Are there any changes or comments?
Yes, I'd like to pull 7.8, please.
Okay, and I don't see any.
Hearing no other changes, I move approval of the consent agenda absent item 7.8.
Yeah, I'm just doing a check to see if there's any public comments on Zoom. Okay, can I have a motion? Pardon me? Okay. So I think we need a roll call on the consent agenda.
Student trustee Swaminathan.
Yes.
Student trustee Rodriguez Velasquez.
Yes.
Trustee Thompson.
Yes.
Trustee Stevenson. Trustee Sarver.
Yes.
Vice President Ginn.
Yes.
And President Dubois.
Yes. Okay. Consent agenda is approved.
The agenda is approved. Or, yeah.
Now for item 7.8.
I want to remove any great concern that I have something to shoot at here. the approval of field trips is something that always goes by in the consent calendar. And for me, it is always an item that ranks up there with the superintendent's recognitions as one of my favorite parts of any board agenda. And really seeing the list of things that we had here at the beginning of the school year, I did want to stop and comment that we have from all across the district opportunities being offered to students in pursuit of performing arts, athletics, and many of the small learning communities that we have across the campus. And we have what I think of as a very robust, high quality approval process where the proposals for field trips are submitted not only with all of the logistics about how the students will be transported, cared for, and kept safe, and what the itinerary is for the field trip, but it usually goes into great depth about the academic benefit that the extraordinary experience will bring to the students. And what we see everywhere is our faculty is going above and beyond to plan out enrichment opportunities that really strengthen the academic program the students are engaged in, allow them to really pursue their passions and see value in real world settings that move them forward. And every single one of these field trips is a wonderful example of that. And reading one after another, I was struck so much that I did want to stop and take the time to appreciate the hard work of our faculty, staff, admin teams in ensuring that we do plan things out to this level and that we continue to offer these kind of opportunities to our students, and to congratulate and thank our community for supporting these field trips and really giving the students the wherewithal to have these experiences. So I very definitely want to move this item for approval, but with particular appreciation.
Thank you for those comments, Alan, especially after the lack of field trips during COVID times. So that was nice of you. Okay, do you want to make a motion to approve?
Yes,
7.1?
I make a motion to approve this agenda item.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item 7.8 on our consent agenda is approved. Okay. Yep. Okay, so now we are on item 8, the very best part of our agenda, special recognition. I'll turn it over to our superintendent, Dr. Williams.
Good evening, everyone. It is indeed a pleasure, and the most exciting part of the agenda, at least for me, one of the most important parts, is when we get to acknowledge all the wonderful work and partnerships that occur in our district, from our students to our staff members, our parents, and also our community leaders. And so this evening, I'd like for us to start our recognition with our students and staff from East Palo Alto Academy. And I'm going to call up Principal Guillaume. Amaka Guillaume.
Good job. Good job.
Guillaume.
Beautifully done. Robert Guillaume from Benson. Remember that?
Guillaume.
That's the one.
Got it.
That's the most famous Guillaume. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Cabinet, Dr. Williams. I am so excited to tell you our little secret that makes the magic at East Palo Alto Academy possible. 8 years ago now, we studied our students in college and those who didn't make it. We sent 26 with a full ride, and only 6 went on to their sophomore year. We studied what made the difference for those who stayed from those who went on. And from that, we are now proudly sending 141 students to university with a quadruple persistence rate for first-gen BIPOC students. How did we do that? How do we continue to quadruple our numbers? Quadruple against the status quo for BIPOC students, first-gen students in college. It's because of these folks right here. We started Summer Bridge because they developed an interview. They spoke to the students, the alumni, and they found out that we needed 5 things: Bulldog love, love of self, love of a community, love of where I'm from, so that they would not suffer from imposter syndrome, which to this day, in my ripe age, I still have nightmares that I did not graduate from UCLA, that I missed the bus because I was commuting. It's real. Not our babies, though. They know they're well loved and they come from a beautiful community and they belong. Bulldog attitude, that you can invest in your learning. You don't have to go and just make some cash. You need to invest in your education. And that learning and education is part of that, because it is a middle class thing to be able to just say, I'm not going to make money for 4 years. I'm going to go to school. Not everyone has that luxury. How do you help the community understand and say, no, no, baby, don't need to make that kind of cash. We need you to go to school. Bulldog power. Yes, you may be young, but boy, you've got power. You've got your voice, you've got your youth. And that's the best part about some of the folks we're going to recognize today. And then, of course, mindset and grit. Our students have grit. They've been through some stuff. Now we need to help them leverage that and say, yes, you've got it in the classroom too. With those 5 things, we have the Bulldog Way. The developers of the Bulldog Way, some of them are here this evening. More importantly, they teach it every summer. For 2 weeks, especially this last summer, which I think we all know was very hard to get credentialed teachers to spend the summer with us. We had several credentialed teachers spend the summer with us. And to quadruple their efforts, because that's what we do, we also had not only the 9 students we're honoring today, we had over a dozen alumni come back for 2 weeks and volunteer. But they're all off to college, so they can't be here right now. So we're going to recognize our current students and our teachers who make us so very, very proud. They set the standard for what we want for our students, not for the 4 years, but for forever. So they can do what we need them to do, positively impact their own lives, their family, their community, and the global society. And I present to you, first and foremost, the teachers who paved the way, Derek Ang and Philip Wong. Perhaps with us on Zoom, I know they were thinking of joining us via Zoom, Sarah Navarro, Danielle Martin, Lucia Gonzalez, Kayla Rodriguez, and Eva Tang. And the best part of the students, because they're our co-teachers. And we all know that students listen to students much better than they listen to us. So thank you to the teachers who made space for the students to be leaders. With us this evening, we have Citlali Rios Sanchez and Diana Torres. Not here this evening, but we have them in our hearts somewhere special. Natalie Nati Barragan, Wendy Sanchez Magana, Ambry James, Jocelyn Tui Polutu, Brian Perez, Alec Valencia, and Azaria James. Thank you for recognizing our awesome team. Summer Bridge 2022.
Thank you very much to our students and our staff who continue to do the great work that is reflective of the goals and the mission that we have for Sequoia Union High School District, and that is to ensure that each and every student receives a robust instructional program that is supportive of advancing their academic goals, as well as their social goals, as well as building for community. And you've shown all of that reflected in your work and your commitment. And so I thank and honor all of you this evening. And so please come forward. I'm gonna. And as they come forward, and since we are in the space, just a moment. And since we're in the space of recognizing greatness within our community, we have more excellence in our East Palo Alto community that we're going to recognize this evening. You know, it's once said that in order for us to properly educate students, that it's going to take a community in order for us to do it well. And when we speak of community, and I'll wait, because I think this is important as well. Want to make sure you all are a community. Okay, hold on. And so as we think of community, we understand that that includes not only the Board of Trustees, the superintendent, our teachers, our staff and faculty, but also our parents, our community leaders, our business owners, our faith-based leaders, because we know together that we can do great things for children. There's also a theory out that says that in order for individuals to thrive, they must have all of their basic needs met. And that's under the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Not that you need to know that. And so we have two individuals in our midst today who understands that concept, that school is only successful when community comes together and we unite and our goals connect in the best interest of children. And so this evening I bring to you Apollonia Ohila, fondly known as, Malangi, fondly known as Mama D. I wanted to hurry up and get to Mama D. As Mama D, and her husband, who we call Papa Cinta Uhila. They are the founders of the Anamatangi Polynesian Voices, formerly Pacific Islander Outreach. It's a grassroots nonprofit serving the East Palo Alto, Bellhaven, and North Fair Oaks, California communities. They have served the Pacific Islander community through cultural enrichment. Mama D and Papa Cinta has helped to improve others in the community with immigration assistance, support for individuals experiencing homelessness or being unhoused, health services, mental health, and more. Whatever the need is, our two community leaders and champions are there to answer the call. Mama D is 73 years old and continues to volunteer at East Palo Alto Academy and assisting our youth and community by reaching back to various islands, preserving their culture, and being an advocate for students and families. As we may remember, the island of Tonga had a volcano erupt, causing major damage, loss of life, and devastation. But the APV Voices, under the leadership of Papa Cinta, and then also with Mama D, helped with local support in organizing funders and individuals who were able to fill a plane with pallets of emergency supplies, food, educational supplies, etc., to help the people of Tonga. Many of the families in Tonga have strong ties to our youth in our school district. By helping our broader community, we are helping the healing process. And one thing I've learned in conversation most recently with Mama D that is most important is she is to stand as an example for all of us. She has done this work without complaint for 30 years in advocacy, advocating for each and every student, not only from the Polynesian community, but from any community, to make sure that they receive the services that are needed in order for them to be successful, not only in Sequoia Union High School District, but also beyond. And so with that, this evening, as a form of not only celebration, but reuniting, we want to thank Mama D for her 30 years of service to our community and to the students of Sequoia Union High School District. And Papa Cinta, we see you there because we know that you two are a strong team. And so with my utmost respect, on behalf of Sequoia Union High School District, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we honor you this evening. Please come forward.
Good evening to all the trustees, board members, and our new superintendent from Compton, California. How about that? I am so grateful and surprised. 30 years ago, I'm standing in this same pulpit 30 years ago. I am speechless, but the work has to carry on because of these beautiful children, our beautiful principal. Many years, I'm still dedicated to our children. God bless. Thank you very much.
For students first, the Sequoia Union High School District Board of Trustees proudly recognizes a student for your positive contribution and commitment to the Bulldog Way at East Palo Alto Academy and for your hard work as a student of the Sequoia Union High School District. Thank you. And certificate of recognition. The Sequoia Union High School District Board of Trustees proudly recognizes Mama Dean for your devotion, commitment, and support to students through your nonprofit organization and providing cultural enrichment opportunities across the Sequoia Union High School District. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, Professor, thank you. Oh, we have one for you too. Thank you.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you very much. Is there another one? No. Okay, with that, to our honored guests, you're welcome to stay for our entire board meeting, which may last a very long time. Or you can go ahead and take off. So either way, you're welcome to stay or you're welcome to leave. But we are very grateful that you are here. Okay. So now moving on with our agenda. For those of you that are following it very carefully, we're on item 9, and it's time for our student trustee comments.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I hope that everyone's summer has been going well. We're so excited to start the 2022-2023 school year. Since we're just beginning, it's only our second board meeting, I wanted to offer you some observations we've made so far. Middle college started about a week and a half ago, so I'm a little ahead, but there's always a mixed bag of, students who are really excited, students who are not so excited. There are some concerns around bus, bell, and class schedules, which we can go into more depth later on in the year, especially as our new freshmen roll in. We hope to learn much more about our students as we begin our SAC meetings this year. Avantika and I have plans to add some structure to help generate more ideas. My peers and teachers at middle college also happen to be very excited about my position, and I hope to integrate the perspectives as we move forward. As for our seniors, we are all getting ready for college and career applications, which is as stressful as ever. I think this year is going to be really great, and I hope to accomplish as much as possible. Since I have not much to offer you today, I wanted to share this quote from a text that I was introduced to last school year. Knowledge emerges only through invention and reinvention, through the restless, impatient continuing, hopeful inquiry human beings pursue in the world, with the world, and with each other. This is from Brazilian educator Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Thank you.
That was awesome. Yeah, I wanted to add a little bit about the bus schedule, bell schedule part of it. So a few days since we've been back at school for only a little bit of time, but one concern that was raised to me a couple times was about the bus schedule. There were 3 things that were brought up, but some students felt like there were not enough buses for all the students leaving in the morning in order for them to get to school at the right time. People also noted that they had to wait quite a while. So I don't know how it is at the other schools, but at Calmont we have 1 through 7 periods, but a lot of kids have just 6. So yeah, they noticed that there wasn't quite a frequency of buses at the end of the day, and some students had to wait quite a while. So that's something I just wanted to bring up from some students at the school, as that was a concern of theirs. And yeah, hopefully we can figure out a way to make that more less frustrating for everyone involved. But yeah, I'm really excited for the school year, and as Sam mentioned, this is our second board meeting, so that's all I have to say really. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and thank you for being here tonight. Okay, item 10, comments from Sequoia District Teachers Association.
Got to get a band here. All right. I wanted to say welcome back to everyone. As I think I mentioned at our first meeting this year, SDTA had our first ever planning retreat before the school year began. The Friday before classes began, we got to meet the many new hires and welcome 40 new members so far into SDTA. So we're very excited about that. We wanted to welcome and thank Rick for all the work he did on convocation, and thank the superintendent for the keynote address. I think our members really appreciated hearing from the superintendent, hearing from folks in the cabinet, and how many students were involved in that to really keep us focused on why we are here and what we are celebrating. Also thinking about why we're here and what we're celebrating and who we're doing it for, we conducted our endorsement interviews for the candidates for the board, and there will be new faces in a few months. And it was really encouraging to see that there are people in our community who are interested and care enough about our students and school communities that they're putting themselves out there, tossing their hat in the ring, and getting involved. So we're really excited about that. And people are really excited about that school bond and climate control eventually. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Edith. And by the way, your alligator speech at convocation was the best. I think I will remember it the rest of my life. It was so good. So great job. Yes.
I did want to, well, I wanted to respond quickly to Edith's comment about turnover on the board. And obviously, Trustee Thompson and I, with the closure of the registration period, have truly entered into a lame duck period. But we are, well, if you've got a way of getting on the next term of the board, I'd be interested to hear about it. That does not mean any lack of engagement on our part. This is going to be an excellent few months we have left in what has been an excellent experience for the last 13 years. But what I really want to do, talk about briefly is the issues that were raised around buses, because that is a large and complex challenge going on around the district. And really the basis from which we're all working is the fact that the Samtrans operations and public transit operations everywhere have been massively impacted by the pandemic. And Samtrans is among many transit agencies that are looking for ways to get back on their feet and recover as ridership begins to come back. And there's nowhere that ridership comes back as strongly as the students going to our schools. There's also nowhere in their system where they get as little revenue out of it as our students riding to their schools. So as they look for ways to be financially viable, they've been hugely challenged. They've been looking at service cutbacks and other things around. So many of our schools and other schools across the county have been hit with surprise cuts in service levels as we've come in. And I know that not only our district staff, but our site staff at each of our schools have been very actively engaging with Samtrans, working on getting the schedules adjusted and getting service levels back up. And the challenges are endless. So what I want to do is assure you that everybody who has a voice in the matter across the district is acutely aware of the issues that we're facing and is actively engaged in it. And it is a long, challenging process that I'm sure is going to progress more slowly than any of us would like. But please be assured that there's a lot of energy and expertise going into trying to make it better, and it's clearly recognized. So thank you for bringing it more broadly to our attention and helping us redouble our efforts to work on it.
Okay, moving on with our agenda. Any comments from the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees? Don't think anybody is here. So I'll move on to item 11. Are there any public comments? Okay, I don't think there are any.
Carrie,
Yes.
if there are no public comments, may I say a word about section 12 that you're going to
Sure.
introduce to us, the information items?
Sure.
Hope this doesn't set a pattern of lame duck board members just speaking out
Long
of
comments
turn,
from
but
Blame.
but actually it's for for a different purpose.
Start timing, you guys.
Put us on
I
the
don't
3
have any-
minutes. Carrie, I had the privilege of working with the board president this past week on putting together, and the superintendent in putting together the agenda for tonight. I want to recognize the fact that the superintendent responded and thank her and the principals in adding 2 agenda items under the information heading. So the principals I see are here, and that's been added. We also asked about something to introduce the independent study. So that was nice. I think in doing that, we want to remind our colleagues on the board, Mr. Sarver, that the agenda is broken up into 3 sections, largely a discussion information section, a discussion section, and an action section. And I want to remind my colleagues in particular that the discussion section is for that purpose, as opposed to the information where largely we are listening to the reports and asking information questions. It's just intended as a gentle reminder, not intended to stifle anyone, but to get through the business efficiently that we think of. I know when we conceived of the agenda in this way, it was intentional about load up on information items, expecting we'd be able to move through them quickly. Thank you. Okay. Madam President, I hope that was helpful too. But we shall see. Thank you.
I think I can handle the meeting. Thank you. Okay. Item 12, information items. Measure A, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee report.
Yes, good evening. It is my pleasure to bring up a gentleman that maybe most of you know, or at least three of you at least know, John Violet, who has been the chair of our bond oversight committee since its inception back in November of 2014. I'm still trying to recruit him for another round, but I have yet to be successful. So we'll see what happens in November. But I do welcome you to the podium. He's going to talk about the most recent reports. We have spent all of the money for Measure A from 2014. The last report that the chair of the Bond Oversight Committee will deliver will most likely be in December or January. And then hopefully we will be able to move on to Measure W. So, John.
Thank you and good evening, board. It's a pleasure to be back again, finally in person after all this time. My last in-person report was in 2019. We did a report in 2020 via Zoom. As we all began to become accustomed to the Zoom process. From that last meeting in May of 2020, or the report, the committee itself did not meet again until December of 2020. And so until we met in July, we had about an 18-month period there where we did not meet. Now, of course, fortunately, most of the bond money has been spent, but there's also been a fair amount of turnover. Enrique Navas retired. We welcome Crystal. Matthew Zito and Luis Pacheco retired, and we welcome Jay Newman. And for that time period when Jay came on board, I had not met him in person until about 2 weeks ago when I was signing the statement of compliance. So we've all managed to do it. And fortunately too, like I said, most of the money is done. We had a $265 million bond issue. We've gone through the number of schools. What you have before you is the annual report, which principally covers the committee members, the staff members involved, and our one meeting that we had, which was that December of 2018, 2020 rather. And it gives the summary of the bond measure and the interest earned and where we stand. And then the report to the community, and really the report to the community details all of the projects that have been undertaken over the course of the 6 years that the bond has been going. And so I don't need to go through that. Everybody's well aware of the projects. I suppose one could look at this and say, why do we need Measure W? But as in my conversations with Crystal, we know that while we accomplished a lot, there's a lot more to be done. And finally, there's the statement of compliance. And I'll note that in our it was actually June 28th that we met. I think the key things that were with preparation of this report to the board and to the community, but it was also the fact that we had an opportunity to review the audits for 2020 and 21. So that brought us up to date. Where do we go from here? As Crystal mentioned, the committee, everything is supposed to be zeroed out by September 30th. From that, there will be an audit done for July 1st to September 30th, so a 3-month audit to wrap it up. Then the committee will meet in December, and from that, we'll review the audit for that 3-month period. We'll get the report ready, and then, as Crystal mentioned, either sometime in December or January, I'll be back to you for a short report that finishes off Measure A, as hopefully we move on to Measure W. So that's where we stand right now. Again, I want to thank the committee members who have hung in there with us through this whole process. Janet Hart, Jerry Carlson, Lisa Costa Sanders, and Susie Payton, along with myself, have been consistent participants in the committee meetings. So I thank them. I thank the staff. The staff really is the one that does the bulk of the work. We just sit, review what they have done and ask questions and get answers and basically act as the eyes for the community, which is what our role is. So be happy to take any questions. There are any?
Thank you so much for your commitment to the
Yep.
bond. Any questions or comments, Alan?
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of working with you in your treasurer role in the city of Belmont and in your long history as a school board trustee for the Belmont Road Shore School District. Your lifetime of community service has been just a gleaming beacon to us all. And it's been a great boon to the citizens of across our school district to have you chairing the Citizens Oversight Committee for this bond measure. You've been right there in the heart of it for 8 years. You've watched it all be prioritized and doled out. You've watched contracts be managed. You've watched buildings go from the ground up. In general, you know, this kind of positive statement does it mean this school district knows how to use the community's funding
Absolutely.
and meets its word and makes a significant positive difference in the lives of its students with the money that we're entrusted with?
Absolutely. I think if anyone were to have a picture of the before of all of the schools and to go around and take a look at them today, the tremendous improvements that have made, the shifts in the usage of the facilities. I was telling Crystal earlier today, our daughter was at Carmont High School from 89 to 93. My wife was the PTA president for 2 of those years. The principal at that time was Pete Newton. And there was a home economics room. And Pete said, I'm going to shut that thing down. We don't need it. Everybody's going to be using a microwave in the future. Well, look around, folks. What do we have now? Culinary arts. It's that reimagining the usage of the facilities and then building them to teach the skills needed today and tomorrow. Because obviously, as much as we'd like all of our kids to go on to college, they're not. But there's other very needed skills, whether it's culinary arts or in the tech field or in construction or whatever. And I'm happy to see that we're making that transition. And yes, the 265 million went a long way, but we still got a ways to go. And I look back in the early 80s at the Belmont River Shore School and where they are today, the same thing. So yes, it's very good. And Redwood High, oh my, tear that down and rebuild it like it was done, and what a beauty it is now. So I thank you, Alan, for all of your years of service. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I'm sure we're not done yet. Chris, were you trying to put in something for a write-in candidacy or something? No? Okay,
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, item 12.2, report on the opening of schools.
It is now my pleasure to introduce 5 of the hardest working people in the district. And I think it's truly the case that we have the dream team when it comes to our principals. And much like teachers, if the principal doesn't work, nothing works. So I'm grateful to each and every one of them for all the hours that they put in. And the opening of school year is so much heartfelt work for our staff. And I'm grateful to the 5 of them who are here this evening, 6, 7, we've got some double representations going on, for taking the time to be with us. We are going to hear from 5 of our schools tonight. We are going to hear from 4 schools in 2 weeks. And then at the following board meeting, because of when the adult school opens, we will hear from the adult school. So I would like to gently remind all of us that this is an information item and that there are 12 children and at least 2 very beloved dogs waiting at home for the folks behind me. So with that said, I'm going to go in alphabetical order, but I want to start
with the school that is most sure that they can stay under the 4-minute allotment, because I want them to set, it needs to be 4 minutes or less, and I want for them to set the tone. Carl Loosecoat, I know you can do it, even though you're an English teacher. So it'll be MA, Redwood, Sequoia, Trace, EPAA. Take it away, Carl.
Well, thank you, Board of Trustees, Dr. Williams and Cabinet, for having us here. I think, first of all, I want to acknowledge that starting school is a Herculean task, and it really takes everybody. We have a tremendous custodial staff that gets the school ready all summer, sets up events, orientation, arena check-in, staff meetings. They work really hard. We have food service that comes in, gets ready. Those first few days are rough. We're all barking. We're all trying to get students fed, and they work really hard. Our front office staff do a tremendous job. Again, setting up, they spend the entire August kind of getting ready. Our teachers, they think, they plan all summer. It really is an amazing effort. And every year I'm kind of blown away by all that it takes. This year we started school. It was really nice to have our first all staff meeting in over 2 years outside. It was a really, really nice community building experience. We revamped some of our things like freshman orientation and our parent welcome to have a little bit more intimate experience. And we also, and when I talk about Herculean task, our librarian, we have a wonderful librarian, Kat Burton, who even invited all of our students that came from small schools in the community to an event before school started, so that those students, and there's like 20 of them, would know somebody when school started. So that's what I mean when it takes everybody. It was really, really cool. Most importantly, our students come to school with joy this year. And I think, last year, the joy, there was a kind of hypertension to it. We were really excited. And it took a little while to corral. There was also this feeling of like, we didn't know everybody, like we didn't know anybody. And it was different. It was a different experience. This year, the joy feels, if I can, somewhat normalized. It feels grounded. And it's really nice to see the students do things that make us all proud. They're greeting each other in the hallway, greeting me as the principal in the hallway. We know each other now. It's really exciting. They're in classrooms, getting to know each other, working with students they've never met before or seen before in class. They're picking up their leftovers after lunch. They're clearing the campus so that 7th period classes can engage in teaching and learning. These are small things, but it's really cool to see. And it's really fun. I had one of our exciting new teachers yesterday described to me that she said, I thought I was going to be really tired. And actually, I'm going home really energized. In fact, I'm going to go work out right now. And it's just a really good feel on campus. So I think we're off to a great start. Lots of community building. Obviously, our teachers are setting routines, but they do a lot of really fun activities to help kids start to get to know each other so that they can start the process of learning from each other and then working together in the process. We're excited about new things. We are excited about the new bell schedule where we have a consistent start time of 8:30 every day. We've arranged opportunities for kids that are only on 6th period days to go to after-school tutoring, after-school writing center, which are up and running, athletic study halls, practice. Again, it's working really well right now. So we're really excited about that. We're excited about simple things like working with Peninsula Conflict Resolution Center on a full-time basis this year as they work to help build community. And with that, I will say, I think we're off to a great start where we've hit a home run and really excited about the school year. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's really great to see you guys. This is kind of strange having this right here, but I'll just pretend it's not there. Everything that was said is the same for us. I mean, people are coming back with joy. I mean, we started the year with 95% attendance and we knew where the other ones were. So that's super awesome. We're super excited about that. And it was really just great to see students' faces. it makes all the difference in terms of them communicating with other students. You know, we had a huge graduation class last year, and so a quarter of our population turned over. And so we have a lot of new students. So before school started again, we met with every single student and their families because we wanted to check and see how the families were doing. We set grad plans, and then we also looked at transcripts. And so we do that with every returning student. And then with the new students, we have new families coming in and new student orientations. And it was really fun meeting a lot of new people. So that was super exciting. Again, the district works all summer and they gave us a new counseling room. So we've been able to extend our counseling services, which is super important. A lot of our kids come in and ask for counseling. And so that was really wonderful to be able to provide them some more counseling space. So on Wednesday, everybody came with a smile. It was really great. Teachers were really great to be back. They were just wonderful and happy to be back. Sorry. You know, and I think that the really exciting thing about Redwood is when you walk around, I think my favorite story is at the end of last year, we have a quad. For those who haven't been there, it's just really like a long quad area. And then I was sitting outside and then all of a sudden I heard clapping. And what it was is students were spontaneously clapping for their fellow classmates in a class. And then there was a competition about people clapping. So you would sit out in the quad and you would just hear classes clapping and hooting and hollering for kids who had done well in the class. So that happened again this year. And already you can hear the clapping in classes. And so it's just a really great feeling to have everybody clapping and promoting each other. So it was really wonderful. You know, our faculty, not only do they teach core, but we do a lot of social emotional work. You know, when you come into our classes, you see teachers teaching social agency. You see teachers teaching about the climate and how it affects them and how it will affect them in our new environmental program center out in the back. You know, our chicken coop gets all the fame, but I want to tell you one of the best things that happened is we have a new food forest happening. And our first planting over the summer, we were able to give 500 pounds of fruit and vegetables to the Second Harvest Food Bank. So, you know, we could go on and on. I'm not a long speaker, but I will say, Dr. Williams, you asked, how are the children? And today, the children are okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hello, trustees. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to do this. I also took inspiration from Dr. Williams and decided that in order to prepare my report, I would, in fact, ask the children. What will you remember most about the start of this school year? So in the breezeway adjacent to Carrington Hall, I spoke with a 9th grader who's told me that she is going to remember the first Purple Friday. And I would say that Sequoia spirit is high. And this isn't just based on informal data like the rough percentage of students and staff who did indeed rock purple at the end of last week, but also by the number of students having already inquired about starting new clubs, a cappella, Magic the Gathering, for example, or the 411 students who attended 9th grade orientation, the 44 students who showed up for the first day of auditions for Sequoia's fall musical. I hope you'll all be our guests, Beauty and the Beast, in November. You like that. I knew you'd like that, Bonnie. Or the 340 student athletes who are competing in a sport. You can see it also in the lack of garbage left behind at lunch, the family turnout for 9th grade orientation night, the choral rendition of the Sequoia hymn at Saturday's alumni picnic. Sequoia students are proud of their school. To a 12th grader under my favorite magnolia tree in front of campus, I asked what you remember most about the start of school this year. We had a 40-minute homework assignment on our first block period, and we had to listen to a whole podcast. A student told me before her friend jumped into the conversation. Ooh, which one? The one about the African slave trade. Yeah, we listened to that one too. It was good, right? Now, at this point, this was a conversation between two 12th graders. Sorry, Mr. Priest. But it was a great illustration of how Sequoia teachers continue to work in strong teams, collaborating on exciting curriculum, common standards-aligned assessments, pacing, and sequencing. Sequoia teachers are great at collaborating in this way because they know and believe that alignment is the most equitable way to assure successful outcomes for all kids. In the B-Wing quad, one of my favorites, a 12th grader now, I've been talking to her since she was in 9th grade. I asked, what will you remember most about the start of the school year? The lunch lines. Well, of course, she remembers the lunch line. She had to stand and wait. But hats off to our food services crew, because I went and clocked our lunch line during peak time on Monday, which is about 12 minutes after the bell rang. And it took 8 minutes and 48 seconds for the student that I tracked to get in line at its longest and get served, which left well over a half an hour for him to eat and make a merry. And yes, it was the pizza line. Operationally, there are other highlights from this year, but I do want to say hats off to the food services crew. But extra effort this summer also should be acknowledged from our department chairs and instructional vice principal. We were fully staffed when the year began. Our freshman classes in English, biology, ethnic studies are at about 28 students each. And this is due to how we prioritize building our schedule and also the generosity of our community and funding our annual goals as a foundation, which help us supplement our master schedule in a way that reflects our values as a school. We're also looking at ways to adjust that schedule to meet the needs of the 20+ newcomer students who have enrolled since last week. In the hallway upstairs, need a social studies wing. What will you remember most about the start of this school year? A student told me cell phone gardens, which is just a beautiful term. Sequoia staff has come together this year on several small but impactful agreements to clarify expectations and reinforce healthy boundaries. In other words, create conditions where kids can thrive. Teachers were issued hanging class sets of pouches for students to deposit their cellular devices, either at the beginning of class, during specific activities, or while in the restroom. The conversation with students about cell phone use has been around supporting healthy boundaries and minimizing disruptions. We don't want a power struggle. We want to empower students. And by 2022, students know that we are all struggling to disconnect from our devices. And a group of 20 or so Sequoia staff members took time prior to the start of school to talk school climate and agreed that we can all work together to maintain healthy boundaries in this area with consistent messaging. Another area being on time to class. My hat is off again to our amazing staff for going above and beyond, positioning themselves outside of their rooms each day, encouraging students to move with purpose and alacrity to their classes after brunch and lunch. And for students still finding their way, and there are very few of them this year, we've been great with tardies, but Mr. Gooch and Miss Oliver, our AVPs, held their first restorative circle yesterday at lunch for about 7 or so chronically tardy students who have made themselves known in the first week of school. And in multiple conversations over the course of the last week, asking, what are you going to remember about the first week of school? I heard making a first impression on my new friends, meeting new people, seeing my friends, etc. Learning is a social endeavor and schools are built on relationships. Sequoia is the place of friends. And tomorrow we will hold our inaugural Raven Circle of the year, the first of 10 consecutive sessions to be held during Flex in the coming months. Raven Circles are co-facilitated by staff and a 10th grader and designed to give all Sequoia 9th graders a shared experience of building community, learning empathy through listening and sharing, and connecting to Sequoia's shared values. I, along with 37 of my fellow staff facilitators, are excited to kick off our Raven Circles tomorrow. And as I started to ask about this same question today, what I got was a lot more head scratches. And so as one would expect, Sequoia students are already forgetting about the first day of school. And the weeks will turn into months and their identities will develop and take shape. These memories will recede even further. But my hope, modest and sincere, is that the 3 memories from a student's first day that will take root and last a lifetime are as follows. Number 1, I went to high school in a beautiful, safe place. Number 2, I was surrounded by people for whom kindness and respect was a priority. And number 3, I was excited about what lie ahead in my life. I'm proud to have been a part of launching another successful year at Sequoia High School. Our staff has already risen above and beyond to make this year great. We've got more memories to make together over the next 9 months. Thanks for giving me a chance to share with you tonight.
Hello. See, I got the music, Edith. So the first day at Trace, what can I say? Staff, students were all so excited to be back together. They were equally as excited in preparation of the visit from the superintendent, board, and cabinet members. And Mr. Beal, there's a student that wants to know when you're going to come back out and play catch. I think one of the most exciting things is the forward momentum that they had from day one. We have an independent hire part of the program, and the teacher that supports that program hit the ground running, so much so that by the third day, he already had 5 students placed in employment. So that's really exciting. And so I don't eat up the whole 4 minutes. We did prepare a little video so you can hear from staff and students. There we go.
Hello, my name is Sunny McCain, and I'm a case manager and a teacher here in the TRACE program. And I am so excited about the 2022-2023 school year. And we're looking forward to having a lot of fun activities with the adults we teach, taking them out into the community, letting them work at their job sites, and just collaborating, meeting new friends, cooking. So we're going to have a great year.
Hi, I'm Paulo Lopez. I'm a teacher here at TRACE. First day of school went great. It's really been exciting to be back. I have some brand new students, and I'm really just happy to be back in full swing with the pandemic almost behind us. So I'm looking forward to a new successful year.
My name is Anna. I'm a para and I also drive the kids to school. I'm a van driver. First day of school was very hectic, but we got through it and it was a good day.
Hello, my name is Alan, paraprofessional here at TRACE, and the first day was amazing. Got to introduce all the new students into the students who've already been at TRACE. Got to take out a few of the new students into the community, which was amazing.
My first day of school was good, and I enjoyed it.
It's good.
So my first day of school was awesome. Got new friends and stuff.
How was your first day of school?
Good.
All right.
So far so good. I mean, I did enjoy myself in summer school, and I think I will like it in TRACE too.
What are you looking forward to this year?
Apply for a job.
Good school year, school day. And I want to make a really good meal for the students in my class this year, again.
Well, what I'm looking forward to doing at TRACE is making cake. And definitely getting to know more of my peers.
That was fabulous. Thank you so much for that, especially because we missed the tour of I'm so sorry. So thank you for that, to give us a glimpse of what you guys do.
Good evening again, Board, Cabinet, Superintendent Williams. I'm glad that we got kicked off by Michael. That's our custodian son. So he kicked us off for EPAA. So I have a quote for you that has been our sort of North Star. When you do things from your soul, you feel a river moving in you, a joy. That's from Rumi. So both Rumi and a little Japanese lady named Marie Kondo has set the stage for EPAA. We have been sparking joy starting in August. Literally watched the video of Marie Kondo cleaning house and sparking joy and said that is our job, is to spark joy. So we gave the team time to make their classrooms a place that will spark joy in learning, in teaching, and in being together. Seems like a little thing, but it has gone a long way, and it is hilarious how many times we hear the term sparking joy. And I should say that one of the greatest joys has been my work wife, our wonderful vice principal. If you haven't met Veronica Miranda Pinkney, you really need to make time. She has brought myself personally a tremendous amount of joy. Isn't it fun when you have a colleague who makes you better? That's Veronica. So thank you for being here tonight and for being that person on our team. But I say this because it's so ironic that everyone kept saying the term joy, but we have absolutely embraced that we need to bring joy back into the classroom. If anyone read any of the literature over the summer, everything, even the cover of Ed magazine was black and it had this dark, ominous image of, and it said, teachers are tired. And I put all that stuff away. I said, I can't read this stuff anymore. We need to remember why we're here. And so what we did was we invested in sparking joy and we invested in listening to students. As of this moment today, we have interviewed 19% of our students in a one-on-one interview, a student with an adult on campus asking them, what brings you joy? What do you like about school? What makes teaching more effective for you or less effective? 19% of our students have told us what they need from us, and we're not done. So if we do those two things really well, I know we will have an outstanding year. And so far, knock on wood, we all know it's a honeymoon. And the question is, how long can the honeymoon last? How long can we be newlyweds? I hope it's a whole year. And this is why, because we started the school year with a celebration of Mr. Ng and Miss Mock, who you saw here today, which I didn't want to embarrass them, but I almost told you all that they got married and we had a celebration. The class of 2011 to the class of 2025 came and celebrated their union at EPAA. It was the best way to start the school year. And from there, I just have to say that being together in joy, being together as listeners of students first, because when you say, how are the children? You have to ask and you have to listen. And we have invested in this afternoon, talking about Tier 1 supports for restorative justice. The alignment and cohesion of us at the Tier 1 level is the most important thing we can do for our student safety and to emphasize the importance of learning together. We have the positive phone call logs in action because it's not just about listening to our students, but it's about telling their parents. Because if you don't listen and share the good stuff with their parents, how are they ever going to know? And as we all know, we see their beloved babies for 8 hours more than they do. Oh yeah, Bonnie told us that. So with all of that, I have to say, may you all have great joy because that's what we're doing at school. And I hope you get to experience it all year. So thank you.
What is not to love? Thank you, school leaders. Go home. Get out of here. Go see those babies. Bravo to each of you. All right, so I'm here this evening to talk to you about the Independent Study Program. It is an information item. Who's running the, here it is, just like that. Thank you, Josue. Oop, where'd it go? So,
Bonnie, I'm gonna let them go, but I think that we should always have the opportunity to ask a question or comment, Chris.
oh my gosh, I'm so
No,
sorry.
I want to let them go. Not your fault.
Oh, I hopped right up. It is my
because of the
fault.
way the tone was set.
No, it's my fault. It's not why I hopped
The
up.
tone was set for that, so I'm glad you let them go. But there should always be the opportunity, because I just want to remind, this is a meeting for the board, and there should always be an opportunity to ask questions or make a comment. So
That was totally my fault. I
nope.
apologize.
It's not your fault. It is not, absolutely not your fault.
I
So I'll ask you the
leapt
question.
up on my own accord.
Because really, this is a meeting for the board, right? And we have questions and comments, and doesn't matter if it's an information item or it's a discussion item. So, but I want, if they're going, they can go. No, I don't want them to. No, they're not going to ask the question. I don't want that.
Carrie, you seem to be directing that at me.
Yeah, I am. They really should be able to go.
I think the way I prefaced my remarks was not to stifle the board, but to talk about the structure of the agenda, which is intentional. That's all.
Well, you didn't need to do that. You guys really can go. Please go. I'll ask. Yeah.
You all for your presentation. We know you want to go home tonight.
So you really go, because I can ask, Bonnie can answer the question.
But I wanted to say thank you because I felt like it was joy today. When I went around to the campuses for myself, there was a different tone this year. I'm a feelings person. So I feel things, and what I felt was a calmness on campus. I felt some normacy on campus. Maybe I'm just crazy, but it just felt really good. I knew a number of kids going out on the campuses, and was hugging kids who wanted to be hugged, of course. Sorry. Don't want to sound creepy. But I did hug folks who wanted to be hugged. I did ask before I gave them a hug. And they were happy to be at school. Even some of our kids who struggled to be at school, to be honest. And so I just felt a camaraderie as a board member. I'm an advocate for our schools. So I'm talking about your schools, our schools in the community favorably. And so I want to let you know our community hears that. They see that. I feel it on campus. And so when I come on campus, I'm able to share the stories of what I see. From the little girl at Trace who said, I saw you at church. And I'm like, yeah. Or to the student at Redwood, who's a family friend, one of my daughter's friends, and just giving her hugs or him hugs. Or going to Menlo Atherton and people are running to show us the Zen room and the new posters. Or whether it's Sequoia and people are like, the day is almost over. We're happy because we had a good day, right? Or even, going to see our transportation and hearing about the electric buses. And so there was just a lot there. And so I know you were called back in. That's a good thing that you were called back in because we love you. We thank you. We honor you because you didn't have to choose us. There's a market out there. So thank you for working for us and our children.
With that, I will let you guys go. I will make my comment at the very end of the meeting. So you guys go.
I'd like to echo that. Your reports to us gave me a shot in the arm. They're uplifting and it was quite amazing. I think one of the things the superintendent has reminded me, my mindset, probably your mindset, so frequently focus on the things we need to do to be better. And I think that's great, but I think one of the things I've learned from the superintendent is we've got to celebrate all that we do. And you helped us do that this morning. And I think that's really important. So, or this afternoon, evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
And the comment I'd like to throw out is to staff and the design of this, that dividing it into multiple sessions is a great choice. It helps us to pay close attention before glazing over. It drags fewer of our site leaders into the room at the same time, and gives everybody more of a chance to work their way through the incredible overload that marks the beginning of the school year, and usually the rest of the school year, but particularly the beginning. So well done on that as well. Thank you.
Again, my apologies for being so excited to talk to you about independent study. I look forward to as many questions
need
as
to
you might
apologize.
have for me. I'll stay here till the cows come home. I too have a child at home, but she with great glee calls this Daddy and Maggie date night every time I have a board meeting. So they're both super happy for me to be here. I am number 3 in that trio. So I'm here to talk to you about independent study, and I'm very much looking forward to doing so. If you go to the independent study graduation every spring in our district, it's one of my favorites because I think that what our independent study teachers do so well is to build a community and to come around students and who many of them most need to feel that individual attention and that connection with an adult and a safe environment and experience. So we, as everyone here is very well aware, had last July, the legislature decide that all students, sorry, I'm trying to make this a full screen. Thank you, Josue. That all students whose families marked off as a reason a concern about COVID and their students' wellness at school, or a family's wellness as a result of the student being at school and exposures, that we automatically needed to put them into independent study. And so we shuffled and we scurried, and we were able to give independent study to all of our students who requested it last year, which was no small miracle. And I'll give you some data on that later on. I'm equally pleased with the fact that we were able to staff those sections with teachers who were highly qualified and cared deeply about their students over the course of the year. But as you will see with some agenda items that I have later on for discussion, the CD has again swung this fall. And for instance, just like they've said, you may not do distance learning. They are taking away the AB 130 language that allowed for families to just check that box off. So now we're back to our prior process for students joining the independent study program. I'm going to walk you through some of what happened last year, some of where we are today, back to traditional independent study, and then where we hope to go in the future. So moving right along, I sent you a board update, an agenda item for this on Friday, and I attached to it a mostly internal document, which is meant for staff and for teachers about the how-to of running independent study. But what I'm really excited to talk to you about tonight, now that I've had some time to prep a presentation, is the heart of independent study and what we are doing for students in that setting. And I would say that our program has got 4 important facets to it. I think we have a clear and streamlined intake process, a high caliber staff, clear expectations for students who are part of the program, and that we have wraparound services. I am not going to stand in front of you, frankly, and tell you that I think being an independent study is as good for kids as going to school. I don't. I think there's a reason that the state said no more distance learning this year. We want kids to be back in school. That said, I think that there are times in the lives of students and families where going to school every day is really not the best option. And that's when we want to come around them with the best supplemental services that we can give to them. So, and there's the heart. We're going to talk tonight primarily about the heart of independent study. So who might need ISP? And the short answer is anybody at some juncture in their lives might find themselves in need of independent study. It is intended to be a temporary program for students who can work independently, but for some reason or other are truly not able to attend school on a daily basis. That can include everything from aspiring athletes, as in we've had people who are competing for Olympic spots. We've had my favorite example is a skier I had when I was the principal at Sequoia High School. Aspiring performers, we have students in our district who are dancing with the San Francisco Ballet, and practice starts at 11 a.m. Traveling extensively with family. Who are we to stand in the way of some lucky kid who gets to go around the world with their family for a year? Talk about an education. Who are at risk of dropping out, or who are in a crisis struggling with mental health. And I want to give major props to my partner in crime, Alvaro Calderon. This is 2 departments working together. I take care of the academic components, the hiring of the staff and the evaluating, but the lion's share of the work is done by Alvaro, who is the person who does the research on students who apply, works with counselors from the sites who first vet applications and meet with families to see if it's a fit, goes through the IEP process and make sure it's done with fidelity for students who are coming into the program, special ed, track student progress, make sure that we're doing the interventions with students if they're not keeping up with materials. And then last year, because there were so many students, we also used some COVID funds to bring back Don Milhop, a much loved former administrator in our district who was in student services before he retired, to help with some of that work. He is back working with us at the beginning of the school year because will be present when I show you the data. We need him at least for the beginning of this year. Thank goodness that we've still got the COVID funds for that. So the curriculum and instruction for independent study, teachers are the primary support. They meet at least weekly for check-ins with students. And one of my great joys last year was that I got to observe those weekly check-ins because I was evaluating all of our independent study teachers last year. I got to sit in on things like a student who has cancer And so he was working with one of our independent study teachers because he was immunocompromised. Quick anecdote, it turned out that I knew of this student because he's the best friend of a little guy I know who's was a freshman last year at Sequoia. And so I knew his mom, and it was really fun to make the connection between this kid whose family loves him dearly. And I talked with her about their fears, and then his connection with Evan, who was his teacher of record, was just really amazing to watch. Something I loved about all of my observations of teachers was the way that they personalized the curriculum for students. This young man had a deep well, I'll talk about another student. I had another student who I knew of, and I knew because the student got not asked back. He needed to spend the semester not at his home school. He was very interested in real estate, and he did a project on redlining as part of his history assignment with his independent study teacher. There were two boys who were just amazing. And they had chosen to spend their senior year at home because their mom was immunocompromised and they didn't want to bring something home. So just really great story after story. So they connect with the students. How are you doing? Everything from show me your art project to what music are you listening to? And then they go through how the student's doing in each class. They offer support where the student is struggling. And then they go for the goals for the week. Here's how much of your class you finished. What goals do we need to set for the week to come? They offer support, like I said, with the materials and instruction. The content itself comes from Edgenuity's California Common Core, so it is aligned to California state standards. Students take the same classes that they were taking at their home high school when they go into independent study, so that they can then transition smoothly back out of independent study. And then there's no ethnic studies curriculum right now in Edgenuity, so we had a teacher who teaches the course at Woodside put together a Google Classroom for that this past year that went really well. And then there's several other courses that are tailored to students by our independent studies teachers. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you that Edgenuity is good as a Sequoia Union High School District teacher. It isn't, but it really is a good stopgap. And then we layer on top of that the support of a full-time teacher. We staff our independent study program at 27.5. So it's the same student to teacher ratio as what our students experience in our regular school. But that's only part of the support that students get. They remain with their homeschool counselor. They're still on their caseload. That counselor works with the independent study teachers to make sure the student is placing the appropriate classes, making the appropriate progress that they need to make. If they're in team ascent, or aspiration advocates, or if they are a special needs student, they still maintain their case managers at their home school sites. They have program administrators, myself, Alvaro, and Don Millhop, to help with the different components of the program. They can take one class at their home school if they so desire to do so. They get mental health services from their home school if they're in need of them. We also have a psychologist who is assigned to meet with homeschool students. We do have many students who are dealing with mental health needs in our independent study program. So they still get those ongoing services. We want to help get them back into school physically. And then they can participate in extracurricular activities at their home school. That includes everything from sports to prom to football games. So to trying out for visual performing arts. And then they have, like all of our other students, the paper 24/7 tutoring. And I put it in here again because the teacher mentor also serves as an ally and a counselor to these students who are really in a pretty lonely time. So here are the numbers from last year. In 21-22, we average about 50 independent study students every year. Last year, we saw our peak with 141 students enrolled in the program in March. And then you can see the increase and the decrease by month. Some of that decrease is from students who graduate early. Some of it is from students who voluntarily return to their campus. We saw a lot of kids, well, our highest bump was in January at the beginning of the second semester of students who decided to return. The graduates, we had 28 graduates as of May out of the independent study program. And then we did have 7 students who went through the 3 tiers of re-engagement that we have laid out, and it just wasn't working. They weren't getting their work done, and so then they go back to their home high school. But as you can see, it's a pretty great success rate. And then, I'm sorry, I missed one at the bottom. Right now, we are at 54 students. Almost all of those students were a part of independent studies last year. Almost all of those students are seniors, which means basically if I'm a senior, then I've spent an awful lot of my high school time at home. But our district's practice has been you're in independent studies for 1 year for the reasons that I listed for you. And then with the COVID, with the 130, all of those kids had checked off the COVID box, which is why they're there for a second year. 75% of our students in the program last year cited COVID concerns as a reason for enrolling in the program. 30% of them were students with 504s. 11% had IEPs. Only 32% of them were male. And here's what happened with staffing. In August, we had 2.5 full-time teachers, 0.5 special ed, and then 2 regular ed. We went up to 2.9. In December, we were at 4.4. Thank goodness for that legislation that finally got passed that said retired teachers could come back and teach and not be capped. We were able to take a couple of teachers who'd worked in the program and were beloved in the program and have them come back for an additional year because of that legislation or semester. And then February was our highest at 5.1. This year, we're at 31% 504s, so pretty flat. We're higher in IEPs, which is not to be, is not a surprise because usually if a student's going to do independent study, that happens in their IEP meeting. So those kids tend to be front loaded into independent studies at the beginning of the year. And then we are higher in our ratio of male students, sorry about that, in the program this school year. With the number of students that we currently have in the program, we are going to hit capacity. We actually have hit capacity. When I made this slideshow, it was 54. For the sake of all my percentiles, I didn't change it. We're now actually, we'll have 60 kids starting as of Monday in the program. So we have posted for another independent studies teacher. Here are our next steps. Hire another teacher. Continue to track student progress, make sure it's the right program for students in it. Track program outcomes. Do we continue to see good results? One of the pieces of the legislation that you'll be looking at this evening is that the state has said that special ed students cannot be refused services in an independent study program, even if they are not able to work on their own. So there's going to be some impact there. Longer term, we want to follow the distance learning guidelines from the state because one of the things that we said in our governance goal 5 was that we wanted to build on innovative practices developed during distance learning. And I think there's a very high chance that you will take that former 5, which is now HR, and you will add this on to goal 1. And we did learn during the pandemic that while it's not good for an awful lot of students to learn remotely, there are some students for whom it is perfect. We saw a high number of students, as did much of the state, of autistic kids for whom the program worked very well. So we are really interested in following up once the guidelines soften a little bit about the parameters for independent study / distance learning and seeing what can we create in our own district that might be another opportunity for our students. So for instance, can we build it so they do take a lot of their classes online, but they're coming in more for community activities during the week? Can they have a central place that will house all of them where they can meet? What can we do to build a community feel? We don't have the freedom to do that right now, which is why we'll be tracking it. But it's certainly something worth exploring based on how successful it was for some students and is, if you look at the data, for some students in the program now. And then we'll be looking at possible innovative designs when that becomes allowable. And now I welcome your questions.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the data. Thank you for painting the picture of students I so appreciate that. I just want to say that when I was a news trustee, I got to know Mary Dunn, and she was masterful.
Yeah.
She loved all kids, didn't know what they were going through, didn't know what they did.
Yeah.
And she saved so many kids from dropping out. And many of the students she was working with could barely attend, right? Just barely, they just couldn't handle it. But then there's other kids that need so much more, right? Where a short bit of instruction is not quite enough. So the
right.
dream would be to maybe have leveled
Yes.
independent study. Is that what we're shooting for, or is it possible to give more to some?
When things
kids?
loosen up a little bit, we very much want to go in that direction.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Questions? Shanice?
So when I heard you, can you go back to the stats, the one right before this? Around the IEPs, I think it increased to 18%.
From last year,
From
yes.
last year. And yet I know, I'm not for sure if the law allows us around waivers around students getting what they need in independent study, because we know it's not the best, right? Especially if you're very involved, like a lot of things are in person.
Yes.
And if they are online, there is a high chance you're still not making the IEP alive. And so then that creates other issues around appeals and things of that sort.
Right.
Is there anything around that that would protect
Yes.
protect us, but also maximize the learning for our students?
Yes, if the program's not working, then they, like a general ed student, we would look for, with the IEP would be revisited. We would have, in addition to the 3 levels of intervention, and we would look at, okay, what do we need to do now? You wouldn't just stay there.
And then my second question, thank you for answering that, 'cause I'm a little curious about that. The next one is that you had an increase of males. I'm not for sure why that is, or should I be worried, or, is that unusual? Like, I'm not for sure what the history
I
is.
think what's interesting there is that last year it was only 32% male. I don't think it's so interesting that it's 43% male this year.
Thank you.
Bonnie, could I add something to the first question? I'm sorry, this is Alvaro. Can you guys, just to address the first question, in terms of students that are in the ISP program
Wait,
with
start again, Alvaro. The board is missing part of your question. Shanice was not sure who's talking. I wanted to remind everybody that we do have a Zoom audience as well.
Hi,
Go ahead.
sorry, I'm joining Bonnie, from home here, but I just wanted to add a little bit to the first, to Shanice's first question in terms of students in the IEP, in ISP with IEPs. Students that are accepted into the ISP program, specifically with IEPs, there's an emphasis of them taking one class at their home school, and that class is, for the most part, their study skills class, because we want to make sure that they have that continued connection with their case managers to make sure that they're in compliance and that they receive the support services through their IEP. And the best way to do that is for the students to remain in their study skills class, and take that at the sites. So the majority of the students, they take ingenuity classes, but their IEP services are still being served through the case manager by taking that study skills class whenever it meets throughout the week.
Thank you so much. That was explained very well. So I'm glad there's still some touch base that's in person. So thank you.
Thanks. Ellen?
I think actually for both of those anomalies that were just pointed out, it's not looking to say, oh, gee, look at the increase this year. To me, there was an artificial suppression of those numbers last year because of that 75% of the program being there basically to hide from COVID. And so now we're seeing a more, I think, consistent picture of how the program has historically been used and kind of a return to that. And that 75% influx and the kinds of things that were described in our handbook, to me, very much reflective of the temporary legislation that we've been working under. And unfortunately, the tools of the legislature are really blunt instruments with which we're asked to do brain surgery. And so you had this movement of it's bad for kids to be doing online education compared to in-person education, so we're going to pass a law that stops it. It's oh gee, there are some that still absolutely demand it, so we're going to pass a law that limits that to be independent study is the only way to access it. And then now we're going to tighten down on independent study and bring things back to normal. And these are very, very broad and powerful edicts that are coming down that, as you pointed out, really delay the opportunity to shape and hone and improve the quality of the program overall. So I'm in agreement with what you've expressed, that hopefully as the district moves forward, we're able to return to the business of making the independent study program as strong, as personalized, as engaging, as specifically successful as possible for the range of students for whom that really is, number one, a temporary necessity, or number two, a slightly longer term appropriate alternative to take advantage of. And so what I'm real pleased at by this presentation as kind of a comparison against the handbook that we had as the original attachment. The handbook was clearly kind of a responsive, kind of a compliance document to that blunt instrument being wielded on the district. Whereas this is really, as you said, looking at the heart of the program, the strengths that are there and the aspirations for strengthening it. And I'm appreciative both of the strengths that are in place and the aspirations for strengthening it. And I'm fully supportive of all of that. So thank you.
Rich?
I'm just curious to talk about the normalization of the program. Is it, in fact, you mentioned a pretty high percentage of seniors. I'm wondering if that is normal or if it means that they're all graduating in a year and it could be really low numbers next year, or if it's common for it to be like it is.
Albro, do you want me to take that or do you want?
No, I can answer that. So the majority of the 54 students currently in the ISP program are seniors. I want to say probably out of the 54, we're looking at 38 seniors, 37-ish, somewhere around there that are seniors. And basically what has happened with the students is that they've been in reality in ISP for 2 years, one during distance learning. And then last year, a lot of the students were uncertain about the transition back into in-person instruction, but they were also very successful during distance learning. So a lot of the students realized that distance learning is the preferred option of learning for them. So when as I reviewed the applications, one, they don't want to return to high school like in in-person instruction because 2 out of the 3 years that they've been in high school, they've done it through distance learning. So it didn't make any sense to reject or deny these referrals. And some of the students are also citing mental health concerns that we're addressing that through interventions and supports, but it just didn't make any sense to put a timetable to say like, hey, we're going to transition you back into school when we know you have these concerns. And however, you've been very successful. So it makes all the sense for you to finish out your high school career through distance learning or through the ISP program. Most of the seniors, if not all, they're on graduation track. So graduation is not a stake. Graduation is not a concern. It's just a matter of completing the work. Now, in terms of next year, once they're done with school, then I wouldn't anticipate that at the beginning of the school year, unless we have another wave of another variant or something that we're not anticipating, I would think that next year we should be starting probably with about 25, 30 students in ISP, which that seems to be about the range that we start with, like every year, pre-pandemic times.
So you can probably figure that at least we'll get probably at least another 25 kids joining ISP between now and the end of the year. And that next year, we hope it'll level out and be approximately 50. It's something that was a little bit tough. We had a very veteran, very good teacher join the program last year, but it was her first year in independent study. And her coworkers told her, don't worry, independent study, you start with fewer kids, so you really get to rev up. And it went from 0 to 60. So that I think is the difference right now.
So next year, you're expecting to start in the 20s and then grow to 50. And
If we go back
mean,
to
just like-
pre-COVID, yes, that is exactly what I
okay,
expect.
yeah, I was wondering. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. All right. Now, 14.1. More on independent study. Discussion of board policy.
All right. So the first piece of legislation that you see before you is Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6158. I need to give you a caveat that this may come back to you again. I'm very grateful to County Council. I want to be Claire Cunningham when I grow up, because the CD had said, we're not going to be able to get you this language until mid to late November, but it's actions that you have to start taking now. So Claire went ahead and did a write-up for the districts across the county. And so there are a lot of districts adopting very similar language tonight. We already had some of the bulleted updates that you see in the board background as part of our policy, which is why they are not redlined in your administrative regulation. The major addition is the piece that I described in the last item, which is students who have IEPs who may not be able to work as independently, have a right to independent study, and to us doing our very best to make it work for them.
Ellen?
So this really goes back to the comments I just made. This is complying with the blunt instrument. I think, it's very clear that we are guided to operate in this manner, and what this is policies that enable us to comply with the law while delivering the best services we can to our students. And in that regard, unless there are other comments to follow, I would be happy to make a movement for, well, I guess
It's
we're not. This
discussion
is, we're
tonight.
discussing.
Yes.
I am supportive of this language, so I'm pleased with what we've got here.
Everybody else okay? All right. Moving on to 14.2.
All right. Speaking of blunt objects and pendulums, the next attachment is a policy that is completely crossed out. And it's because AB 130 was adopted as we were directed to do by the state last year as a 0.1 to 6158. And now we have been directed to get entirely rid of AB SB 130. So it is there before you, completely crossed out. It is not up to us. It is legislation.
Any questions or comments? Nope. See how we fly through this agenda? Okay. Item 15 or action items. Item 15. Yeah.
Is she here? Is she online?
Hello.
Well, congratulations on your promotion.
Dun.
Yeah.
Cindy, are you going to walk us through 15.1 approval of Sequoia Adult School Parent Education Memorandum of Understanding?
Okay, sure.
Action item. So I guess we were walked through it at our last meeting. Any questions?
Any questions or comments?
For Cindy or Ms. Hanson, I'm really supportive of this, and I was wondering, how does this interact with our Sequoia Adult School, the child care piece of this, or does that support our adult school, or is this just a partnership?
It's just a partnership at this point. I'm not sure if the nurseries offer evening childcare services, but it hasn't been so far something I think we can explore, but it hasn't been a partnership where we have childcare services with these nurseries.
Okay, thank you so much.
Chris?
Carrie, I think that it's correct, but be corrected if I'm wrong, that these were issues that frequently had been brought before us on a routine basis. So to some extent, bringing this forward here was to give it some visibility to the board and be aware of the number of programs like that. I might ask a question. It strikes me that these programs are sort of different nature. When I think of Family Connections and what they do as opposed to nursery schools, I mean, is there anything to comment on how they serve differently or complement one another? Or I'm not exactly sure what the mix is, except that it's dealing with that age kids.
You know,
Go to the superintendent or the adult school.
Cindy, do you want to comment on the differences in these types of nursery school / family connections listed here?
Sure. You know, the intricacies of each of the programs, I'm not fully aware of. The partnership and the purpose for these contracts are to support these nurseries and childcare centers so that they can I think it's like Title 22, they can utilize support from us in the district to be able to run their centers. So that's pretty much what I am aware of in terms of the services that they offer. I know, I think Family Connections has a lease with the district.
Yes. Family Connections has a lease with the district. They're located right around the corner from you guys.
Yeah.
They do an amazing job of providing a quality nursery school experience for students, and the parents are a part of a co-op and a parent education. But when I'm not familiar with each one of these, but when I read the description, it looks like they have in common that it's student and parent education pieces. I think that they have lesser and greater degrees of co-op expectations. Volunteer.
Okay. And certainly I'm not raising any questions about the value of this kind of program, but was wondering how the portfolio mixes or what we're covering in the district and so on. I'm not sure that the board would be interested in looking more deeply at that in the future, but one might, to understand what the mix and attitude toward these programs are. I mean, what I will speak to is I certainly believe in the importance of setting a solid foundation in preschool that affects the trajectory of learners up through their high school experience. And I think we as board members probably don't have a good understanding of how each of these contributes in its own way.
I have a really silly, basic question. Are these listed in our brochure with Sequoia Adult School, or, because I know in other like Palo Alto Unified School District or Mountain View school, adult school, they all list their parent education. Is ours listed like that?
No, we don't have them listed, but we have done in the past, we have done presentations to parents, and we can pick it up again now that we're more back in person, but we have done presentations about the adult school services and programs to the parent ed nursery parents, those that are participating in those programs.
All right, no more questions, Cindy.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
So can I have
You need a motion to approve it's an action item to approve the contracts as a group or the MOUs?
second? Thank you for the second. All in favor? Motion passes. Now we're on item 15.2. Discussion and approval of the governance team goals.
And so as of August the 18th at our governance retreat, there were some revisions to our current governance goals made by, of course, the Board of Trustees. And so for number 1, which you see in red, is to add including building on innovative practices developed during distance learning. So the total statement would be for number 1, the district will strengthen innovative quality instruction by improving attendance, engagement, rigor, and preparation for college, career, adult, and civic responsibilities for all students, including building on innovative practices developed during distance learning. The next update is number 5, which is in red. The district will design and implement a highly effective recruitment, development, and retention system to attract and retain top talent, create a safe and inclusive climate, build capacity, and increase diversity. So here stands the updates to our existing, or the governance team's existing goals as of August the 18th, 2022.
Any comments? Shanice?
I just wanted to, I'm sorry. Is it okay? Okay. I just wanted to acknowledge SCDA President Edith for bringing that to our attention about the staffing piece of it. And I do believe that will help us get the quality instruction because you're like getting teachers and staff. And so I just want to appreciate that during this time that we still stay competitive so that we can provide high quality education for all parts and all profiles of kids in our district.
Thank you. Rich?
I was just going to comment and support these adjustments is exactly what we discussed at our retreat based on the feedback we got in the spring, and recognizing that the return to live instruction goal, since we're in live instruction, it's time that while we still want to retain live instruction, we're not removing our commitment to live instruction, but just as a goal for moving forward. So this is in alignment with what we discussed at the retreat, and I support it.
Okay. Chris?
I share that support. Also like the fact that my colleague Stevenson, I think lots of us remembered that SDTA president reminded us that actually it's been a long-standing goal to be supportive and look for talent and retain talent. And so I'm very pleased to see 5 reinstated there. The little tiny adjustment I'd love to see made was, I was one who pushed for the inclusion of the adjective innovative in part 1. I think it's not necessary as an adjective to instruction exactly because of what we've included at the end. And that actually was my intent all along, was that the innovation, particularly coming out of the disruption of the pandemic, would spur innovative contributions to the quality of instruction. So I would suggest to my colleagues that we might be able to strike the word innovative on the first line of goal 1. It's sort of wordsmithing, but
I would say to me that I don't see a downside to having the innovative in there twice. That I think the new part in red is recognizing that there are practices that were specifically developed during distance learning that were innovative and as such should be part of the ongoing growth and success of the district. But I think that the general dedication to innovative quality instruction remains and is much broader than that as well. There are many ways in which I think our entire district has strived for innovative instructional practice that spans far beyond the impacts of the pandemic or the specific work we did in implementing so much of distance learning. So I feel comfortable in actually having it there twice and indicating that our dedication to that is both at the very broad level and at ensuring that we capture the best of the learning that came out of the trials of the pandemic.
if it's okay with the president, I would love to respond to that. Though acknowledging that wordsmithing, I think it's not, I've tried to wordsmith here in public and that just doesn't work frequently. And it probably doesn't matter a whole lot to the issues. I'll tell you what I was focusing on was, I think quality instruction is the key phrase. That quality actually can be described, or you can put an adjective that might include innovative, evidence-based, teacher. I think there are lots of things that go into quality, which is what we're interested in, and innovative practice is just one of those things.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, Chris has made a proposal to clean up language a little bit. I made a bit of a rebuttal and he's thrown it again. I think the rest of the board should discuss whether or not to do that cleanup, and then
I decline it. I think it's,
What?
I decline his changes. It's fine.
All right.
Be tolerant of two old guys arguing, I guess is the only thing I'd ask for.
I'll turn it over to Trustee Jen.
But Alan is an excellent editor.
Yeah.
He's excellent.
What do you think?
So you break this tie.
Say broadly, we spend a lot of time in the retreat focusing on the specific wording and the goals, and that's a good time to get into wordsmithing stuff. And we get to this point of adopting it, I feel like if perhaps you come make a public comment in our next retreat, should you wish to to that word, but it'd be a good time to, I would just accept what's here now. I don't think doesn't change the overall goals. The goals have already started off the school year based on our retreat. So I would think that we stick with these goals for this academic year.
And I agree with Trustee Jen.
That's 2-2 now, right?
In the spirit of being a team player, I'd like to move to approve the changes, the modified version of the governance
Second
goals.
Chris's motion to approve.
Okay, perfect. Because I didn't have to vote. I got off easy. I know, but it's okay after the motion. It's easier. All right, all in favor?
aye.
Wow. See how well we work together. Okay. All right. 15.3. Rich, do you want to introduce this item? For our audience, it might be an inside joke. I can't tell if the Zoom people are laughing or not.
This is, of course, for COVID during the pandemic. Governor Newsom stated that in a state of emergency, boards could Zoom into the meetings, use teleconferencing as a way to avoid potentially dangerous situations. However, every 30 days, the board needs to make a decision on whether or not they still feel we are in enough of a state of emergency to necessitate the renewal of teleconferencing during board meetings. And this is a roll call vote. I also have the data on our district dashboard, and I will just read it this time. So for the first 2 weeks of school, from August 8th to August 12th, obviously we didn't have any students in school, but there were a few students working around campus. So we had 10 student cases and 11 staff cases. And then in week 2, when we did have our first day of school from August 15th to August 19th, we had 62 student cases reported and 6 staff cases. So that is where we are. And again, it's a roll call vote for the board.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments or questions? Do I have a motion, please? And a second.
I second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Student trustee Sominathan.
Yes.
Student trustee Rodriguez Velasquez. Trustee Thompson.
Yes.
Trustee Stevenson. Trustee Sarver.
Yeah.
Vice President Ginn.
I abstain.
President Dubois.
Yes. Okay. Pass it. Right. So that moves us, we flew through this night, didn't we? Okay, so that brings us to item 16. Board of Trustees and Superintendent's comments. Dr. Williams, did you have any comments that you wanted to make?
Good evening again. I just want to commend the entire staff, our teachers, our principals, our transportation workers, our maintenance staff, just everyone in terms of a successful school opening. As was said previously by our principals, it felt a sense of familiarity. I know we want to say normalcy, but it felt more familiar in terms of how the students engaged with one another. Whereas last year, we can remember some students saying, my whole 10th grade year or sophomore year was spent online. So I don't know my principal. I don't know my teachers. I only know them via Zoom. So I just want to commend everyone for an excellent opening. And I am looking forward to a fantastic year of in-person, innovative, quality instruction and practices. So thank you, everyone. It takes all of us in order for us to exist for our children, our students. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, so I will go first with some comments. I did receive a letter. I believe it went to all board members from the San Mateo County Stonewall Democrats. Did everybody get that letter? So I'll just read the first paragraph. We write to you today to encourage you to take concrete steps to support and validate the LGBTQ+ students enrolled in your schools. They go on to say that they're thankful for the work that has been done so far to make our schools safe and welcoming, but there's always more that can be done. And they have given us some several things to consider. So I'm wondering whether we should, place this on the agenda, maybe invite them to do a presentation. Also, there's the idea of hearing from our students on this topic, because I don't remember a board agenda item on this topic ever, or at least for quite some time. So we should, I think, respond to this. It's an important issue.
I'd like to see the response first. I know when we've had response from our community, when I first came on board, about some of the equity work and kind of like racial demographics and curriculum, and there was a few different emails that were coming by from different parties. And one of the first things, I don't know if that was under Associate Superintendent Leach or you, but there was we did a letter first to kind of see how we compare to what they were saying, and then created a community response. So I'd like to know what we've been doing in those areas.
Yeah.
For example, the bathrooms, right? That was a big thing that came up for some of our students who wanted gender neutral bathrooms. And there has been some work, but also it falls into facilities. So it's like, and that's part of our bond for some of our bathrooms, right? So just trying to figure out what that is.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for your additional comments. And then thank you for organizing the first day of school tour. I especially like visiting the small schools. I especially was thrilled with the middle college visit because I had not ever seen middle college classes in action. I mean, what a powerful partnership. Thank you so much for all that you've done there, Dr. Williams. I do worry a bit about going to the big schools. I may be the odd man out. I just feel like they're so busy. I feel, I almost feel like they only need, like, if we're going to go there, we need to work. So, but I may be odd man out. It's not that I don't love to be on the big campuses. And so with that said, we do need to think how we can visit the big campuses in a time where we can sit down and listen to students, listen to staff members, say very little, and just take in comments. And then what I was going to say with the opening of school presentation, but I don't know if it fit. And it's just something I've been thinking about. And I know that that was really a joyful, positive presentation. What was on my mind wasn't as joyful and positive. One of the things I think a lot about, as long as I've been a board member, and I think about that first day of school, and I think about that first week of school, I think about our dropouts. I think about the kids that aren't doing well. And I don't know, I was walking in from my garage into the house and kind of came came into my mind actually even today, that teachers and our administrators and other staff members, they're on the front line of stress. And all of our kids are not doing well. You know, we have kids that, I mean, Bonnie, I remember when you presented years ago at the foster youth conference that I did, and you were principal at Sequoia. I'll never forget. You did a beautiful, beautiful keynote speech. And she said, you know, most of the kids are taken care of so well, but there are some kids that are not taken care of very well. And those are the kids that come to our campus, or they don't come to our campus. And so as we're celebrating the joy, there are kids that do not show up. There are kids that sometimes they're put in therapeutic boarding schools against their will because of terrible, very bad substance abuse issues or mental health issues. There are kids that have given up, right? And they don't show up. And so one of the questions, I don't know how to ask it, and maybe somebody can answer offline. There are those kids that don't show up. They're not in the classroom. And so we may know on that first day that they have dropped out or they've disappeared. And I just wonder, and I know that those are conversations that happen at all of our sites. So again, it didn't fit with the mood, but I want to share that that is what I think about. And, you know, as we share the joy and as we share that, yes, we want all children to be well, the problem that we have is some kids are not. And we really need to talk about them and be open about it. And that actually helps, I believe it helps our staff members because they're dealing with this stress and the trauma and the sadness that some of our kids carry. So thank you for letting me say it. I didn't want to ruin the mood. So thank you. Any other comments?
It's been incredibly exciting to go through the start of the year, talk about going from 0 to 60. And for me, a large part of my interaction with school-related services has been with worksite labs over the last 3 weeks or so, as I had my opportunity to go through COVID and wait for the negative antigen test to catch up with my recovery. I was well served by convocation being held on Zoom because I would not have been able to attend in person. I was thrilled to test negative and be able to participate in the tour of our sites. I think one of the things we learned out of that tour is what we saw well demonstrated with the opening of schools reports this evening, that we probably can break it into 2 parts and not try to jam 100% of the district into even less than 1 whole day. I think we did get to the point that we were running with our tongues hanging out, our eyes were glazed over, and we were not able to engage as much as we really wanted at some of the campuses. But again, to reflect on what Carrie just said, I think our engagement in many of the sites was just fabulous. You know, I think there are essentially 2 things that we are trying to accomplish with that. One is to get a feel for the mood and the pulse of our district, recognizing that it's only going to be a very hit and run kind of thing in any event. And the second is to really demonstrate the support and the fact that every bit of our district is in the hearts and minds of district leadership, and that you know, and that we want to be there and support each and every part of our district. It was a tremendous inspirational day, and it's just so exciting to feel a part of the start of the school year. There are, let's see, I also last night was very excited to attend a community outreach meeting of the Four Corners Project along Alameda de las Pulgas in front of Carmont High School. That was held in the student union there. And the city of Belmont is now the lead agency in implementing the work. The presentation is that the design is at the 30% level, and now there is community presentation and feedback and refinement over the next year, a permitting process with work anticipated to be occurring either in 2024 or 2025. But this is an input development design process that's been going on for a decade. And now we're talking about the work phase of it unrolling over the next couple of years. And that is extremely exciting. And I'm excited to think about how the traffic patterns within the Carmont campus as well will adapt to the opportunity and make the campus safer and healthier for our students and a better, more positive asset to the neighbors and the community.
When did you say it starts?
This was the first of 2 community input meetings that are being held. Those will reshape design details that will go to a detailed design over the remainder of this year. And then 2023 and beyond will be the permitting process. Their best case is shovels in the ground in 24. Their worst case is 25.
You also need to keep that in mind as we're thinking about other, should we be fortunate enough to have other construction in the area?
Yes.
That, just to keep that all in mind. Thank you.
Yeah. And today I attended a Zoom meeting of the CalSTART group for the Pacific Region Electric Bus. I don't know, electric school bus working group. So that is a very hands-on coalition of organizations throughout the West that are adopting electric school buses. They gave some statistics in that, and California is showing more than 1,000 electric school buses across the state that are somewhere in the implementation process or already rolling on the roads, whereas other states seem to be somewhere in the double digits. So the lead work is going on here. I'm very excited that we're part of it, and that'll be a great resource for us to be able to leverage going forward. There's just basically everywhere that's somewhere in the process can share their knowledge and their pain and what to do and what to avoid, and how to make it easier for us to be successful. So that's tremendous. Tomorrow, the County Office of Education will be holding a college and career countywide Zoom session that I'll be attending. And then I'm very excited that we are getting started on a number of school year activities. Tomorrow evening will be 2 back to school nights, both MA and Tide. And the folks at Tide have been able to provide me with a schedule to get into both some of the freshman classes and, for the first time ever, some of the senior classes. So I'm really looking forward to how back to school is presented at both ends of the spectrum for the first time at Tide. My apologies to MA that I can't be in 2 places at once. And Friday is kickoff of football season. And I'm excited that there's going to be a twofer that Woodside will be hosting Sequoia. So I'll be attending that. And I will get to MA on Saturday when they host Bellarmine for an afternoon game. So that'll be a good one. There's a lot of good ones. And I was thrilled also to be able to go through the various school calendars and see there's a lot of various performing arts activities, dramas, musicals, instrumental music, and choral coming up throughout the fall semester. And I encourage other board members to see what you can get on your calendar. There are some great chances to celebrate our students being back in the entertainment biz.
What are you going to do when you retire? I think you're still going to be showing up everywhere.
I am certainly planning to take advantage of the phenomenal amount of quality of life that our high schools offer to the surrounding community. And you bet I'm in on all this stuff for the long haul.
Chris?
I heard the promotion for Beauty and the Beast at Sequoia earlier tonight. He didn't give us a date, so you should do that next time. But in conversation with Carrie and Dr. Williams, we talked about polling the board for its interest in looking at attendance patterns and specifically absences, chronic absenteeism, truancy, which could be an information session for the board. One of the best CSBA presentations I think I ever heard was actually UCLA prof looking at the impact on absences and distinguishing between the types. I mean, it's obviously highly predictive of academic performance. Unclear, there's the complication of the causality factor. I think there's a lot that the staff could bring to our attention on that, bringing us up to speed and trying to understand whether this is a dashboard thing we'd want to keep track of on a regular basis, what remediation is being done. So the topic is rich in possibilities if the board is interested in this.
I'll say, I think I'm interested in the topic. I'm wondering how it fits with the dashboard, which is a point in time, like an October date, that everything's as of that date, and attendance is really an ongoing flow type of item.
That's why you said regular item, regular update.
So you're saying do it like when you said regular, what maybe?
I think that would come out of the presentation. You're going to get something even in an annual assessment of percent of students who are absent for more than, I forgot what the statistics say, but if you're absent for more than
10%.
is it 10% of the time? Your chance of succeeding plummets. And so, I mean, that you'll learn from annually. Maybe the board would be interested in a monthly. I don't know, but
I would say at a minimum with the dashboard, when we get the dashboard, which is, I don't know, October-ish last year, assuming it's at a similar time, that at that same time, we see whatever the attendance information was for like the entire prior year. And then maybe we talk then about
whether
what
the board would want
frequency-
to take the time.
or what would be the right frequency if it's more than, see what it is and then see what.
I understand what you're saying. I think I was raising a different question of whether we'd want to have a session, an information session that talks about what is this data? How is it important? What are we tracking? All the setup stuff. And then from that, the board might want to get a monthly report or whatever on a frequent basis. But I do think we need the education beforehand in some form.
I would piggyback on that because I was going to say it, and my update is that I actually talked to someone who actually brought up attendance with me, and I'll talk a little bit later about how they were thinking about it, but they specifically talked to me saying that we need to get a little bit more aggregated data, I think that's how you say it, and they recommended that Heidi Nai Lin Chang from Attendance Works that do a lot of work in this area.
I've been talking about for 9 years.
Yeah, because I do think how we look at data matters. And I know our district has some small numbers, which makes it really hard to kind of see it, but really looking across demographics. And I know I talked to Dr. Williams, I can't remember what we talked about, but so hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot, but I looking at students that cross different systems and if they have attendance issues, it means students who are in foster care, students who are in juvenile justice, do they cross with some of our students who are newcomers, those kinds of things, to see if there's any pattern with some of our students, to really think about how do we do that, because I know that we have a lot of innovative practices that came through distance learning around attendance, and I know that takes more time and money, but is something to kind of think about, because I do think we worked really hard. I'm looking at Ms. Hanson, really hard to make sure that our students either engaged or re-engaged or we found them. But there was a lot of robust effort during that time.
Okay. You done, Chris? Shanice?
So I wanted to take the time to thank you for taking us on our second annual tour. I got enough sleep the night before to be able to hang out till 3 o'clock in the afternoon at 6 o'clock in the morning. But we did start a little bit later, so that was better than 5:15. So thank you for that. I really wanted to say thank you for including Trace. I know we didn't get to go in the classroom, but it just touched my heart just even going by the buses and the kids were talking to us and the bus drivers and that just warmed my heart. So I wanted to say thank you for that. And I also wanted to invite you all to go skating in Bloomhouse in East Palo Alto. We have community free skating on, yes, from the 26th to the 28th. Come on out. I'll send y'all the information.
Skating?
Skating.
Okay.
You want to be a part of community, come skating. Anyhow, so they're doing that. This weekend I went to the Blues Festival and saw in East Palo Alto was a dedication to one of our longtime community members and co-founders who passed away during COVID, not of COVID, but passed during COVID. And really saw a lot of young people and parents who asked me questions about Sequoia Union High School District. I was so excited because usually nobody knows what Sequoia is. So I'm like, we're getting out there. They're learning that we're more than just one or two schools, that we're many schools. So wanted to share that, and I talk fairly highly of our schools. The other thing is that I want to talk a little bit. I'm resend an email out to Dr. Williams, but there was a parent who gave some feedback around some of the. We have lots of kids doing biking, enjoying their exercising, doing the wheelies, and they don't always respect the cars that are coming through. So we're getting a lot of feedback. We don't know who those students are. So I reached out to Redwood City Together, and they're doing something in partnership with Live in Peace and some others, and really sat with young people and realized that certain cities or communities don't have enough for youth. So there is going to be a PR piece that come out regarding that. And there still are some young people who may not be involved, but then that lessens the number of students that are young people that as a community we need to talk to, because they're riding their bikes, free living, and we want to talk about keeping them safe and us safe. So I'm excited about that. The other thing I wanted to let you all know is that we had a meeting in the summer. There were some young people who unfortunately was involved in an incident, a violence incident in East Palo Alto outside of school hours. And we were able to meet with Mama D and her organization to have our first meeting just to say, we're here. Coming from the community, you don't go in solving problems, you go in listening first, and you start with the elders. And so I started with the elders of our community, and it was a community. Dr. Chacon was there, so thank you, and Dr. Guillaume. Maybe you're a doctor, I don't know. Principal Guillaume. And it was just a beautiful conversation of alumni students who are interns and staff of the program. It was former parents who were students at our school district. And it really, we were able to sit. They had not gotten to meet folks, so they really wanted to come in a positive perspective. And I think it made a difference. So I want to publicly thank Dr. Williams and Dr. Chacon and all the staff that helped us to organize that. And it's the first meeting, so it's not the last meeting, but it was the first one. You just start with humility, not humility, false humility, but real humility that says, I'm listening, and then move from there. And so that was important to me as a community member. And I just want to thank our community who brought it up to me. As my daughter was getting married that week. And so I wasn't able to follow up on everything, but really sitting with the community as they cried. So now that people have gone through some of the mourning, they were ready to talk. And so I just wanted to just publicly thank everyone here for thinking about that community and our community, my community. Out of that came, Gina Sudaria was there, Superintendent Judy
Gina Sudaria, and she asked, when can we have our 2x2? So I'm looking at you and I. Can we get this scheduled sooner than later? Because I do think it's important that we start meeting and move on that momentum to continue to work together as cross districts and partner districts. Last thing is Redwood City Together is going to be doing a welcoming meeting, so I'll probably be joining that. And then the last thing, two last things is, thank you for lifting up the student voices that are here. I know we have our wonderful student trustees, but just, it was beautiful to see the different students at the convocation. It really like touched my heart. And then the last thing, I just want to thank the past board members. I was kind of nostalgic doing the tour last Wednesday. I was walking next to Trustee Sarver, and I said, how does it feel to know that your vote got us a new building, or it improved the performing arts, or it hired, we have 2 new people that we hired, and you approved, a job description, or like, how does that feel? And I just felt so proud for those who came before me, who made critical decisions, because we got tied, or we got a new performing arts building, or, whatever the case may be. And it was just it was actually touching to kind of see. I know you all are leaving the board, but and those are staying, that your vote mattered, your voting mattered, your courageous efforts and decisions mattered. And it is better for kids. We may not be where we need to be, but we're not where we were. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, with that, could I have a motion to adjourn? And a second?
Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned.